Recognizes full committee ranking member Lucas for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Faulkner, the Vice President's challenge to NASA, return to the moon by 2024. Your testimony indicates this is the appropriate course for NASA to pursue based on your experience with other programs. Let's talk for just a moment about the greatest challenges to achieving the goal and how we can mitigate those challenges.
Well, as I mentioned, the institutional momentum was one issue, but another one I agree with Dr. Sanders about is the consistency of purpose. You know, quite honestly, a lot of us in this industry suffer from professional whiplash because every few years we change what direction we're going and where we're going and how fast we're going. We need that consistency of purpose so that we can stay focused. And so that's one reason why I welcome it's logical to go back to the moon and get on to going to Mars.
Mr. Gerstenmaier and Mr. Sirangelo, speaking of that, President George H.W. Bush's space exploration initiative was challenged by a $400 billion price tag, which Congress at the time rejected. President George W. Bush's vision for space exploration was challenged by a lack of support from OMB, which failed to request sufficient funds to support the plan. We made considerable progress since those two proposals. NASA's exploration budget now eclipses $10 billion per year, and we're invested in the Space Launch System, the Orion capsule, and the supporting ground infrastructure. We've already made investments in next-generation systems that are necessary for lunar exploration and a stepping stone to the moon. What's NASA doing to implement lessons from those previous initiatives, and specifically, what is NASA doing to ensure that any plan it submits to Congress for review is sufficient, that being a very key phrase, sufficient to achieve the goal, but also focusing only on the necessary investments?
Again, I think as we take a look at the lunar objective for 2024, again, as I described kind of in my opening testimony, we're taking the hardware we've already built that's already in pieces, and we've figured out how to implement that hardware to go to achieve the lunar goal. In the discussion about the spacesuits, again, we've got to be careful we don't put more than we absolutely need for the suits for the missions to begin with, but they're evolvable and sustainable moving forward. So I think we need to take this in steps, the way it's been described, where we put pieces in place that we can build and build the next piece moving forward. The ascent vehicle that we'll look at for the lunar activity, that ascent vehicle has direct applications to the Mars ascent vehicle on Mars. So if we look at where our hardware fits and how it moves forward, we don't have dead ends. We don't build hardware that's unique to one application and move forward. And we need to be very cautious about how we build our contracts, how we acquire our hardware to make sure we get good value for ourselves and to continue to do the right, or don't drive the budget to the levels that are not sustainable.
Sir, I think one of the things that is really different this time is that we are, when you're investing in technology as the way we have done as a government and as a country, it's an accumulative process. We are a lot smarter, not only because we've learned the lessons of the past, but because we now exist in an industry that has significant more spaceflight activity, more significant, more technology on orbit, and we have just understood the environments that we're working in to a greatly different level. I know in your district you have farmers who are working many generations, and in doing that you learn from generation to generation, and I think we have done the same thing in our area. We are also backed now by commercial industry throughout the United States, which has invested heavily on its own. So it isn't just government that's making that investment. We're making that investment throughout our entire economy.
So understand when I make this next comment, in many ways, as my town meeting constituents speak through me to the body, I speak through you to those who make decisions. Your folks are the can-do people, but OMB, the administration at the top levels, there are so many elements there. So when I make this following comment, bear that in mind. The previous administration submitted budget requests that were required on what I would describe as creative bookkeeping, switching NASA funding from discretionary to mandatory spending, tying it to increases in gasoline taxes. Those proposals were rejected by Congress. I hope that the proposals we'll receive are not funded in a similar fashion to the things done in the previous administration, because that will cut the legs out from under us. If we don't accomplish this time, I don't know when we'll have a fourth opportunity in certainly my lifetime. Thank you. Yield back.